Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday, May 5th edition of the MMA OB Daily Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Adam Martin, and I'm joined by my co-host here, Cole Shelton, for a special edition of the MMA OB Daily Podcast. Cole, we get to break down UFC 249. It takes place this Saturday. It's actually happening. Knock on wood, man. Knocking on all the wood in front of me, man. This card better happen. But, Cole, I'm excited to talk about this card with you, man. And top to bottom, it really is one of the best cards I think I've ever seen. I mean, I've been watching this sport for a long time, and I'm pretty sure you feel the same way. So, just any initial thoughts on the card before we dive right into it?
Yeah, like just looking at you have Jacare Souza, Uriah Hall opens up the televised prelims. That could be a co-main on a fight night or like on a pay-per-view card. Like that's a main card fight on a pay-per-view to have, and then to have like Vicente Luque, Nico Price on the Fight Pass prelims. Like that just shows how stacked it is. Like there's a ton of former champs on the card. Like the prelims, basically almost every fight is a former champ. Like you have Pettis, Verdum, Sparza, like a lot of big names too. Like this is one of their best cards they've done, like in recent memory for me.
Yeah, I love it. I do love it. Now, obviously, you can argue about the morals of it. I'm holding an event right now, but it's weird. Like I feel like I'm okay with it more so than I was when they wanted to hold it in April. I think that was like way too soon. That was like nuts. Like everyone was kind of on the same page there, but like restrictions are lessening all around the world, and even in Toronto here, Cole. Like it seems like they're gonna start reopening up things very shortly. So, I feel like enough time has passed where the risk isn't as much as it was a month ago, but it's still risky holding an event for sure. But UFC, they say they have all the tests in order for all the fighters and the athletes and the other people that are going to be associated with the event. So hopefully everything goes smooth, Cold. No one gets sick. That's I think the number one hope for all of us, just the health and safety of the fighters. But I mean, on paper, this card is absolutely stacked. So we got 12 fights to break down today. We're going to start with the prelims and work our way up to the main event of the evening, as we always do. Cole, we haven't actually broke down fights in almost 2 months now. It's been like 55 days. I was just looking at it. The last card we did was Oliveira versus Kevin Lee, and that was in March. So it's been a while, but man, I'm excited to talk about this card with you. Okay, so let's get into it. First fight of the night, light heavyweight bout, Ryan Spann against Sam Alvey. The current odds, Ryan Spann minus 420 and Sam Alvey plus 335. Who's your pick?
Yeah, this is pretty obvious. Ryan, I have to go with Ryan Spann. I'm really high on Ryan Spann. I've talked to him a couple times. I've talked to a lot of guys at Fortis who train them. A lot of people say he's one of their best guys they've seen in a while. He's looked really good in the UFC. Submission over Devin Clark, a quick knockout over Nogueira. He's even on the Contender Series. He knocked out Emiliano Sordi in 26 seconds, who just won the PFL tournament. So we know how good he is. I think they made this fight for a reason. It's trying to get Ryan Spann another win. Sam Alvey's a guy a lot of people know. He's sort of fan favorite. He's a guy. He's like not a huge name, but he's a name that a lot of people do recognize. He's on a 3-fight losing streak. This is do or die for his UFC career, I think. And this is a guy that just kind of gets Ryan Spann over the hump. Like Nogueira was a big name. Then they're doing Alvey. And I think I have Spann by first round knockout. And I think after this, he'll get one of those top 15 guys.
Yeah, I got Adrian Kapoor here in the comments. Morning, guys. It's fight week. Hope you're doing well. Man, we're excited to be back, and I hope you're doing well too, Adrian. Feel free to ask any questions during the show. We'll get to them. As far as this fight goes, yeah, I'm with you. I like Ryan Spann. I mean, obviously, I think Ryan Spann is, to me, like one of the more likely fighters to win on the whole card. Like, I feel more confident in him than most fighters. I just really like this matchup for Ryan Spann. The guy's a beast. He's massive too. Cole, when I went to Brazil last year, actually, I think it was like almost a year ago where I was in Brazil right now for UFC 237 for the Andrade card, which would make it a year since I've worked for BJPenn.com, which I think is next week's my first year anniversary. But when I was at the airport, Ryan Spann was there with Saad, and I was like, geez, who is that guy? Or I was talking to Aaron, my friend, Aaron Bonstetter, and he's like, that's Ryan Spann. I'm like, holy smokes, I didn't realize how big he was. Like, I'm 6'3". Cole, this guy's way bigger than me. He's 6'5". He might be 6'6". He's a massive dude for light heavyweight. Like, he could easily be a heavyweight. I've been nothing but impressed with this guy in the UFC so far. He's looked great. The fight I was at, he knocked out Little Nog in like devastating fashion in the first round. Since then, he picked up the win over Clark. He's on a 7-fight win streak. Like you said, the win over Sordi, that looks really good. He's got a couple other decent wins on his resume too. So this guy's been around, for a little while now, but I think it's really taken him a while to get his groove, and I think he's got it now. To be honest, like I think he should have got a top 15 guy already. Arguably, he's taking a step backwards. Like I think Little Nog's a better fighter than Devin Clark, and I know he's a little older, but I think he's a better fighter. I think he's a better fighter than Sam Alvey. So, and they fought head to head, right, and knocked him out. So, to me, this should be an easy win for Ryan Spann. I think he knocked Sam Alvey out. I don't like Sam Alvey at 205. I don't think he's looked very good there. His chin's not as good as it used to be either. Like, he's taken a lot of damage in his career. I like the guy. He's a nice guy. I know you had an interview with him, Cole, and he's a super nice guy. But I think this is going to be another knockout loss for him, man. He's lost 3 in a row. I think this will be the fourth in a row. So my pick's going to be Ryan Spann, my first round knockout as well, Cole. I just don't see this fight lasting very long. I think Ryan Spann connects, puts Sam Alvey out, blitzing him. I mean, it's possible Sam Alvey can go the distance, I guess, like if his chin holds up. But Cole, like, look at his last couple of fights. Like, he's starting to get knocked out more than he used to. So, yeah, I like Ryan Spann in this fight. I don't want to overthink it. Minus 420 does seem like a lot, but to me, Cole, like, I think he's one of, like, the few fighters on the card where I feel, like, really confident. Someone was, like, name, like, 2 or 3 fighters to win. I would definitely put Ryan Spann on that list, you know? So I like him a lot in this fight. Next fight, Bryce Mitchell versus Charles Rosa in a featherweight bout. Interesting fight here. Right now we got Bryce Mitchell minus 155, Rosa plus 135. Who's your pick?
Yeah, this is a really interesting fight. 2 really good submission artists. Rosa's coming off that really good win over Manny Bermudez to get back in the win column and a return to the UFC where because he hadn't fought in a while. Bryce Mitchell obviously coming off that really nice twist win, has some good wins, beat Bogdanoff, Tyler Diamond, who signed a PFL now. Like, I like Bryce Mitchell in this fight. I think he's just better on the ground. Striking wise, I think they're pretty similar, but I don't think either of them will be able to pull off a finish or get a submission. So I think it's going to go the distance where Mitchell will just outwork Rosa on the ground on the feet to pick up a decision win.
This one's pretty tough, I think. This could go either way. Bryce Mitchell's looked good in the UFC for sure. The win over Matt Sales, obviously one of the best submissions probably ever with the twister. Also looked pretty good in the other fights against Diamond and Moffitt. Those are decent wins. I mean, the guy as a pro is 12-0, and he's got some decent experience now. He did lose on the Ultimate Fighter to Brad Katona, but it was a couple of years ago, and he's looked pretty impressive since then. He's pretty popular among, like, fans right now. So, you know, you think the UFC would give him a fight he can win. Rosa is a very underrated fighter, though, in my opinion. Like, somehow he's 33 cold. Like, he's kind of, like, snuck up in age because he's been around for, 6 years now, but he only fights once a year, basically. So this is a guy that you would love to see fight more often because you look at his resume, Cole, fought once in 2014, twice in 2015, once in 2016, once in 2017, didn't fight in 2018, and once last year in 2019. So he's a guy that I'd love to see fight more often because if you look at his fights, he's winning fight of the night, performance of the night in, like, almost every fight. He just doesn't fight that often. For me, like, the fact that he doesn't fight that often definitely, like, kind of hurts him here against a guy like Bryce Mitchell who's constantly getting better and showing that in his fights. Rosa's good, though. This is a spot where a dog could win, I think. I would not be surprised if Rosa wins because, quite frankly, I don't know how good Bryce Mitchell is. I know he has looked good in the UFC, but he has been fighting lower level competition. Charles Rosa, quite frankly, has been fighting much better guys and beating them for the most part. So I'm going to go with Bryce Mitchell, Cole. Probably the winning decision here, a back and forth decision, but Rosa could win this fight. I wouldn't personally bet on this fight because I think it can go either way. Next up, we have the main event of the early prelims. And Cole, honestly, this is my sleeper pick for Friday night. This fight is sick. I can't wait for this one. Vicente Luque against Nico Price should be a great fight. Right now we have Vicente Luque minus 290 and Nico Price plus 245. Who's your pick?
Yeah, just surprised the odds are that it's high. I do like Vicente Luque in this fight. He obviously won the first fight. I just think he's the better all-around fighter. I think his ground game is a lot better than Nico Price. I think Nico Price probably has more knockout power, but striking-wise and technical-wise, Vicente Luque is the better striker. It's going to be an interesting fight because Nico Price has shown he can win from anywhere. Like the James Vick fight, the Randy Brown fight. He can knock people out from the bottom. He's obviously a durable guy. Like, he takes a lot to finish him, but I think Luque can just outwork him, outstrike him, take him to the ground. I think he might be able to pull off another submission, but I'll take Luque by decision in a pretty close fight, but one where Luque gets back into the win column.
I'm a little surprised the odds are this wide. I know that Luque obviously won the first fight a couple years ago. He submitted Nico Price, but Nico Price has, like, improved since then quite a bit, in my opinion. And Luque, he's looked good too. Don't get me wrong. I'm surprised it's minus 290. To me, like, there's no betting value there per se, but I do slightly favor Vicente Luque just because, for me, Cole, the defense is the problem with Nico Price. He's very willing to get into a brawl, which is not, like, a problem for him usually because he usually has a better chin than his opponents, and usually he's able to knock them out, as you saw with James Vick, Tim Means, Randy Brown. But he can get knocked out himself. We saw that. Jeff Neal, Abdul Razak Al Hassan, he can get KO'd. And I feel like Vicente Luque has got enough knockout power where we could possibly knock Nico Price out. So I wouldn't be surprised if Price does win this fight because the guy's really good. I love Nico Price. I think he's one of the most exciting guys in this division. He's awesome. If he wins, I'd be great for him. But I got to go with Luque, Cole. Even though I didn't really like his performance against Thompson, I'm still pretty high on this guy. I think he's very well-rounded, very dangerous. I think he's just a little bit more well-rounded than Nico Price. I think he could probably connect with Nico Price and knock him out. So that's going to be my pick. I'll take Vicente Luque by KO, but I don't really like the odds. Minus 290, to me, that's a little high. There's probably a little bit more value in the dog, but I got to go with Luque. All right, this is an interesting fight, Cole. Kicking off the ESPN preliminary card. Love this matchup. Uriah Hall against Ronaldo Jacare Souza, and Souza is minus 135. Hall plus 115. Who's your pick?
Yeah, this is a really interesting fight. I think it's a good move. Jacare's been back down to middleweight. I didn't really like him at light heavyweight. I think he's a better 185er, but obviously his last fight 185 was not a good one. Yeah, like Jack Hermansson he really dominated Jacare Souza. And this fight, this is actually one of my underdogs. I'm going with Uriah Hall. I just think I was really impressed with that Carlos Jr. fight where he stuffed a lot of the takedowns. I think he can do the similar thing to Jacare, and on the feet, I think Hall's a better striker. Since he's been to Fortis, he's been a lot better. He's been a lot more dedicated. He's training full time. He lives at Fortis now. So fighting is his whole thing right now. I think Safe always comes up with really good game plans here. I think Hall's going to keep this fight on the feet, just outstrike Jacare and take a decision win.
So when me and Cole get the podcast ready, we don't talk about who we're going to pick for our fights. I like it to be a surprise, and I'd like for Cole for it to be a surprise for him as well. The only thing that we said to each other was we're both going to pick 2 or 3 underdogs. And I wasn't sure what Cole was going to pick, but I kind of had a feeling. And I wasn't sure about this fight, Cole, but I'm actually on the same page with you. I'm going to go with Uriah Hall here, which is crazy because I'm a huge Jacare Souza stan. I love the guy. He is awesome. The guy's been really good for me over his career. I've picked him in a lot of fights where people didn't think he'd win, like the Chris Weidman fight, for instance. But I think he's definitely getting up there in age, on age 40, and to me, he hasn't looked that great as of late. The Blachowicz fight, I mean, you gotta keep in mind, Cole, that was up a weight class, and I thought he won the fight. A lot of people did, so we gotta give him some credit there. He lost a split decision to the guy who's probably gonna fight for the belt. That's not that bad of a loss. The one that concerns me more is the Hermansson fight, Cole, because you got dominating that fight. And Jacare is a guy that, he's amazing on the ground. Like, his ground game is one of the best, but he's very willing to stand and trade. And the last few years, that's kind of been his downfall. You saw that in the Hermansson fight. He just got picked apart for the whole fight against a guy like Hermansson, who's a decent striker, but not amazing. Uriah Hall, I think, is actually a better striker. Uriah Hall is a very tough guy to pick. He's another guy that I've had quite frankly, everyone's had issues picking his fights over the years. He's one of these guys where you think he's going to win a fight and loses, like the John Howard fight, or a fight where he's going to lose and he wins, like the first Gegard Mousasi fight. He's just kind of an enigma. He's very tough to pick. But I have liked how he's looked lately, and I like the fact he's training a Forest. I know he's training by himself. We've got to keep that in mind for all these fights. A lot of these guys have makeshift training camps. Like Jacare, I believe, is training in his garage. I don't know who he's training with. I think he said he was training with Gilbert Burns a little bit, if I'm not mistaken, Cole, because they're friends. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I think I read that. But in general, these guys are going to have makeshift training camps. Uriah Hall's training by himself right now with Saad down in Fortis. That, to me, could be enough for him to actually get the win here. I think with that coaching, this is enough for him to make that leap in his career from, gatekeeper to contender. This is going to be a big win for him if he gets it. I think he can get it done. I'm not super, super confident by any means, but I'm going to take a shot in the dark here on Uriah Hall as an underdog. I do think he can win this fight. I'll take him to win by decision, Cole. I think he can just kind of outstrike Jacare, who's kind of getting up there in age right now. So my pick's going to be Uriah Hall by decision. And basically it's a consensus dog. But, it's kind of hard to go too crazy against Jacare because he is so talented. So if you're going to bet on Uriah Hall, just don't go too crazy. But I definitely think there's value on him. All right, next up, women's strawweight belt, Carla Esparza against Michelle Waterson. Carla Esparza, minus 155. Michelle, the karate hottie Waterson, plus 135. Who's your pick?
Yeah, I'm going back-to-back underdogs. I'm on Michelle Waterson here. Just style-wise, Esparza's obviously a wrestling-heavy kind of fighter. She uses her wrestling to dominate fights. That's how she won the title. But the thing with Waterson is most of her fights, she wants to go down to the ground. She's a girl that has really good jiu-jitsu, so I don't know if Esparza is going to want to wrestle her because I even talked to Waterson about this. statistically speaking, most of her wins are off of the ground by either ground pound TKO or by submission, even off her back sometimes. So I think it's going to be interesting. I think Watterson has enough wrestling takedown defense to keep the fight on the feet. And on the feet, I think Watterson's a much better striker where I think she'll do enough on the feet. And even if it goes down to the ground, I think she'll still have success on the ground where I think she's going to take a decision win here and get back in the win column.
Yeah, like I said a few minutes ago, me and Cole didn't discuss who we're going to pick, but I'm actually on the same page here too, Cole. I do like Michelle Watterson in this fight. Like you said, like the fight stays on the feet. She has such a huge advantage in this fight. Carla Esparza's striking is very rudimentary. It's never improved. Her bread and butter is her wrestling. She's got really good wrestling. She can use that to win her fights. But to me, it's like people think she's like Michelle Watterson's like Alexa Grasso. Michelle Watterson's a much more well-rounded fighter, way better wrestling. Look at the Carolina fight. Took her down and just controlled her on the ground. She is a little smaller for this division, but it's not like Esparza's a big fighter either. Like Esparza is 5'1". She's very small. Michelle Watterson's actually a little taller. Esparza, obviously, wrestling-wise, I mean, she definitely is a better wrestler, Cole. But I actually think Michelle Watterson can grapple like pretty well with her in this fight. I think she can keep the fight standing for the most part. And on the feet, to me, there's no question she's a better fighter. So, Esparza's going to really have to use those takedowns and hold her to the ground for 3 rounds to win this fight. I don't see that happening. I like Michelle Watterson, man. Plus 135. To me, she should be favored to win this fight, Cole. I like the style matchup for her. Give me Michelle Watterson to win a decision. And the odds on the fight going to decision, I mean, I would assume it's pretty high. Yeah, it's minus 450, but I mean, that should be honestly a lock. Like, I don't see this fight ending inside distance. Bucky Betts, what's up, guys? What's going on, Bucky? All right, so we both like Watterson there, Cole. I mean, honestly, Cole, like I was kind of thinking what fights you would pick. I had a feeling one of these two fights on the prelims, but the fact that it's both of them is kind of crazy. But yeah, I mean, we both like the same dog. That's okay. All right, next up, heavyweight bout, Alexei Oleinik versus Fabricio Verdum. Right now, we got Verdum as a huge favorite, minus 330. Oleinik plus 270. Who's your pick?
Yeah, I like Fabricio Verdum in this fight, but it's dog or pass. There's no way I'd lay that kind of money on Fabricio Verdum, especially because he's coming off such a long layoff. And as you saw the suspension, and he was a guy that was really frustrated. He was asking for his release. He's saying, "Oh, let me go fight." So didn't seem like he was too motivated to be back in the UFC. Alexei Oleinik's been fighting. I know he's been knocked out. He lost to Alistair Overeem and Walt Harris, but even in that Overeem fight, he had some success on the feet at the beginning, coming off the win over Maurice Green, but that was not a very good fight. Both kind of gassed out. I think Verdum could connect, and I think he can knock out Oleinik probably in the first or second round.
Yeah, I like Verdum too. You have to pick him. I mean, the layoff scares me for sure. He hasn't fought in 2 years, which is never a good thing, Cole. But on paper, I just think he's the better fighter. And more well-rounded in my opinion. Like to me, the biggest difference here is both guys are amazing on the ground. I mean, actually, this should be a great fight too, Cole. This could easily, Cole, headline a Brazilian fight night card or a Russian fight night card easily. This would easily be the main event. So this is a great fight. Gotta say that. They are two of the best grapplers ever in the heavyweight division. Both guys have been around forever. They're both 42, but they're both, I think, well, it's hard to say about Verdum, but Oleinik's still fighting at a pretty high level, despite his age. He's been fighting for 24 years. Verdum's fought for 18 years as a pro. I mean, these guys have been around forever. So a lot of respect for these guys. Oleinik's great, man. I mean, he's awesome, but the problem with Oleinik is he's only a grappler. Like, his striking's, it's not there. He did knock out Jared Rosal a few years ago. That's it, though. I mean, he doesn't knock guys out. He takes you down, submits you, often with the Ezekiel choke. That's not going to work on Fabricio Verdum. I don't see him submitting Fabricio Verdum here. I think the fight stays standing. I think Verdum probably knocks Oleinik out or at least wins the decision here. I don't love the odds, minus 330 on a guy who hasn't fought in 2 years. No thanks. So I think I'd pass on it. I think Cole's right, dog or pass. But I like Verdum in this fight, Cole. I mean, just the striking alone should be enough for him to get the win here. All right, last up on the prelims here, Don Cerrone against Anthony Pettis 2. It's a rematch. Great fight. Pettis minus 135, Cerrone plus 115. Who's your pick?
Yeah, this is a really interesting fight. I've had a pretty good read on Cerrone lately. Like I picked him to beat Hernandez, Quinta, and then lose the last 3. This one, though, I'm really torn on. I think this is a really close fight. It could go either way. The odds really reflect it. I lean towards Anthony Pettis, though. I just think striking-wise, he's a better striker. If they go to the ground, I think Pettis is the better grappler. I know his last fight against Diego Ferreira he obviously got submitted, but I'm really high on Diego Ferreira. Then before that, lost to Nate Diaz, but he had an injury going to that one, and even losing to Nate Diaz isn't a bad thing. Then beat Wonderboy Thompson. Lost to Ferguson because he had to corner Sanchez because he broke his hand, but he had success in that fight, and then the Michael Chiesa, submitting Michael Chiesa in 2018, that's still a really good win, especially how good Chiesa is. I think Pettis can have success no matter where this fight goes. I think this fight goes the distance. I don't think either of them get finished, and I think might be a late finish if there is a finish, but I think Pettis wins this one.
Yeah, interesting fight for sure. I remember the first time these guys fought, I actually called Pettis by knockout. I said it on the MMA Daily, not the MMA Daily podcast, the MMA Odds Breaker. What was it called again? Geez, I can't remember, but it was me, Nick, and Luca, and I picked Pettis by knockout. I said he's going to knock him out, and no one believed me, and he went and did it. It was like the first knockout loss of Cerrone's career. Since then, he's been knocked out quite a few times. He's got 7 knockout losses now, so a lot's happened the year since. Cerrone's still a great fighter, but I don't trust him anymore, Cole. I mean, look at his last 3 losses. Now, keep in mind, they are 3 of the best guys in the world, to McGregor, Gaethje, and Ferguson. But he got finished in all 3 of those fights. Pettis is a guy that is a technician on the feet. He's got a lot of knockout powers. We saw against Stephen Thompson. First guy to finish him. And I feel like he can connect with Donald Cerrone and finish him here. If not, kind of just pick him apart, win decision. It's definitely not like a super lopsided fight. It's closer than probably the last fight was, where I really liked Pettis back then. I mean, it's been a year since then, right? 8 years almost, or 7 years. But this time around, I do lean towards Pettis again, just to win. But I wouldn't bet on it because honestly, he hasn't looked great either. You know, we got to keep that in mind. As bad as Cerrone's looked lately, like Pettis hasn't looked great either. So my pick's gonna be Anthony Pettis, but I don't know about a bet here, Cole. I'm kind of torn. Even though I think he probably should like style on Cerrone here, I don't know. All right, let's get to the main card here. Man, what a main card this is going to be. Sick fights. First up on the main card, opening up the pay-per-view. And I'm a little surprised this one's opening up the pay-per-view. Not that it's on the pay-per-view, because I know that UFC loves Greg Hardy, but I think I would have used Cater and Stevens to open up the card just because I think that's going to be a crazy fight. But this fight is Greg Hardy versus Yorgan De Castro, and right now we got Greg Hardy minus 200, De Castro plus 170. Who's your pick?
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting fight. I think this is either going to be a first-round knockout for someone, or it's going to be a really sloppy 3-round decision. Just with the way the odds are, I have to pick Yorgan De Castro just because I think this is a pick-em fight and just get plus money at heavyweight and pretty like significant plus money here. I think striking-wise, or power-wise, I think they're pretty similar with power. I think they both can take a punch, but I think what's going to be a big factor is Yorgan De Castro's leg kicks. I think he's going to chop down Greg Hardy, and I think that's going to really frustrate Hardy because no one's really kicked him in the legs as much as De Castro will. I think that's going to be a huge factor in this one. I don't think they're going to go to the ground. I don't think either of them have the wrestling or are comfortable with their jiu-jitsu to go to the ground. I think it's just going to be a stand-up fight. I think De Castro can just piece up Hardy's leg, kind of chop him down in the 3rd round, score a TKO win.
Yeah, and again, you know, I didn't talk to Cole about these fights beforehand, but I'm kind of with you, Cole. I like De Castro too here, man. And for me, like, it's also the kicks. I was thinking about that fight in the Contender Series where he was like a huge underdog in that fight. He was like plus 800 maybe. I can't remember what it was, but a huge underdog. And even in his fight against Justin Gaethje, I think he was underdog in that fight too. So, you know, this is a guy that doesn't get a lot of respect, but man, he's got really good striking. And Greg Hardy is definitely dangerous too. I mean, he's got knockout power. He's definitely a quick learner in the sport, which is good to see. I mean, say what you want about him as a person, but as far as his fighting abilities go, I mean, the guy's pretty good. I mean, for a rookie season to have 5 fights, it's pretty incredible, actually. But, you know, you saw in the Volkov fight that there is levels to this game. I'm not saying De Castro's at the Volkov level because Volkov, he is one of the top 10 guys right now in the UFC, but I think De Castro is a little bit more talented than Greg Hardy right now. You know, if these guys fight 2 years from now, probably Hardy wins, and he might win this fight too. But I actually do kind of like De Castro here, Cole. I don't love him by any means. I mean, it's a heavyweight fight and go either way, but to me, this is a pick 'em fight. You know, this fight could go either way. Plus 170 on De Castro. That's the way I'm leaning here. So I'm going to go with Yorgan De Castro. I'll take him to win by knockout, man. I think he can get it done, if not win decision. But, yeah, Cole, I mean, again, I wasn't sure what fights you'd pick, but it looks like we're on the same page, which could be a good or a bad thing.
Well, even just like what you said was, when I talked to De Castro, he even said, he's like, I wanted Hardy now because I don't want to fight him in 2 years because I know how good he's going to be. He kind of thinks he's catching him at that right time where you can have one over Greg Hardy that looks good on your record down the line.
Exactly. And here's the other thing. Hardy is not very experienced. De Castro really isn't either, but I think he's fought actually, you know, decent little competition in the fights he's had. So, it's two guys that don't have a lot of experience, but I feel like DeCastro's a little bit more just ready for this fight right now. We'll see, though. I mean, it should be a good fight for sure. Definitely an interesting fight to open the main card with, considering the lack of experience of these guys, but UFC thinks there's going to be a knockout here, so that's why they did it. All right, now this could easily be fight of the night. Jeremy Stephens against Calvin Kattar. I'm so glad they kept this fight together, Cole. Such a great fight. Right now, Calvin Kattar minus 250, Jeremy Stephens plus 210. Who's your pick?
I'm going Calvin Kattar. I just think he's the better fighter all around. I think Jeremy Stephens has more power, but I think this is similar to like Vicente Luque and Nico Price, where Stephens has the power, but Kattar's the better technical striker. I think even if it goes to the ground, which I doubt it will, I think both of these guys are just going to want to stand. I think Kattar's going to be the better striker. He still has knockout power. We saw in the Ricardo Lamas fight and the Chris Fishgold fight, it only takes one punch for him to finish it. What really impressed me is at UFC 220, that's Shane Burgos win. I think that's still one of his best wins. He really put it on Shane Burgos. And then if you look who he lost to Moicano, which isn't a bad loss, and he lost to Zabit. But if that Zabit fight was 5 rounds, it was the main event, I think Kattar would have won that fight. We saw him have a ton of success late half of the second and early third and into the third round. I think Kattar will get a decision win here, and which is going to be really tough to see what the UFC does with Stephens if he loses this one too.
Yeah, he hasn't been winning very many fights lately. Right? Like he's definitely a guy that Dana White loves. This guy, and the matchmakers do too. I mean, the fans do. I mean, the guy's always in good fights, and he's been around forever. But right now, he's on an 0-3 and 1 no contest skid. So you think that if he loses again, I wouldn't say his roster spot's in jeopardy by any means. Cole, like everyone likes Jeremy Stephens. He'll stay around the UFC for as long as he keeps fighting. Calvin Kattar, man, he is super impressive to me. If I was to beat, yeah, Cole, if it was 5 rounds, he could have easily won that fight, man. So it's unfortunate it was only 3. Otherwise, he's looked great. The Burgos fight was phenomenal. What a great performance. He beat Andre Fili in his debut. That's a great win, too. Ricardo Lamas is a solid win. Fishgold is probably his worst opponent, I think. But, yeah, I'm impressed with Calvin Kattar, man. The guy's just a technician with the boxing. Like, he is very impressive. It's crazy because he's 32, right? Like, he's a little bit older for, like, someone that, doesn't have that much experience. Like, Jeremy Stephens is only 1 year older, Cole, and has, 25 more fights in the UFC. Like, he's been around so long, but could be a good thing for Kattar. Hasn't taken as much damage. I like Kattar, too. I mean, Stephens is hard to finish, so I'm kind of leaning towards a Kattar decision, and probably one of the maybe fight of the night could be for sure one of the best fights of the night, though, easily for sure. Kattar by decision, but he could knock out Jeremy Stephens. It wouldn't surprise me. He's got the boxing that he could definitely do so. Got some questions here. Kenshiro Rodoju, Stephens going to sudden KO Kattar sleeping? I don't know, man. I don't see it. Stephens definitely has KO power, but I think
he has a good chin.
He's got a good chin. Has he been finished? I don't think so, right?
No, he lost to Moicano and Zabit by decision, and he took some good shots in there.
He lost early in his career, but I don't think he lost by knockout. He lost way back in the day. Was he KO'd? No, I mean, he's never been knocked out. So I don't see that happening here. I mean, Stephens definitely has power. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's going to happen. The last knockout he had was against Josh Emmett. I called him in that fight. It was 2 years ago, though. He hasn't knocked anyone out since then. All right, Adrian Kapoor, with you both on Hall and Waterson, but Hardy going to KO Castro? Definitely possible. I mean, it's a heavyweight fight, man.
Yeah.
Either way. Seriously, you can take a coin and flip them for the 3 heavyweight fights. Take a coin and flip them. You can go 2 or 3 easily and not even break down the fight. John Hanco, what's up, John? You think the wear and tear is catching up on Stephens? I do think so because he's been around for so long in the UFC since 2007, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, 2007. Fought Dean Thomas in his debut. He's been in so many wars over the years. Like the last few fights, the Yair fight was a crazy fight. The Zabit fight, the Aldo fight, he got KO'd pretty quickly, but. Even going back a few years, like the Holloway fight, the Cobb Swanson fight, he's been in a lot of crazy fights. Only been knocked out twice, never it's been a while, the Yves Edwards fight and then the Aldo fight. But overall, for a guy who's in this many crazy fights, to only have 2 knockout losses is not that bad. But to answer your question, I absolutely do think that the wear and tear is catching up, on any fighter, but especially a guy like Stephens, because Cole, he's been fighting the UFC since he's been literally 20 years old. So he's been around forever, man. Cole, you're 20, I think, right? So he's been fighting in the UFC since, however old you are, Cole, to, however old I am right now. I'm 31. So that plus 2 more years. That's a long freaking time, man. James Van de Bos would be one of the big comebacks of Cruz beats Cejudo. We'll talk about that fight in 1 second. Looking forward to talking about that one. All right, so that's it for Stephens and Kattar. All right. This is another great fight. Nagano versus Rosenstruck. Now, it was supposed to be a 5-round main event at UFC Columbus. Now it's 3 rounds. Cole, honestly, I don't even think it needed to be 5 rounds because I don't know if this fight's going to go full 5. I doubt it. I don't even know if it goes full 3. But either way, it's a great fight. Another heavyweight bout here. Nagano minus 265. Jairzinho Rosenstruck plus 225. Give me your pick.
Yeah, this is such an interesting fight. I think I have to pick Ngannou, but again, this is dog or pass in this one. Rosenstruck has a ton of power we've seen. And the thing with Rosenstruck is his power still lasts late in the rounds. We saw it the Overeem. I was ready to go to bed. I'm like, Rosenstruck lost. And then I was getting ready. I'm like, this is a dominant by Overeem. And then 4 seconds left, he lands that punch. It still only takes Rosenstruck 1 punch. He can land it whenever. But that's the same thing with Ngannou. It only takes 1. I talked to Rosenstruck. He says this is going to be one of the best fights 2020. When he said that, I'm like, oh no, please don't beat Lewis and Ngannou too. I'm like, I don't think it's going to be. I think Ngannou's full of confidence. Rosenstruck's full of confidence. I think they're going to go at each other. I think it honestly might be first one to land good.
Yeah.
Who's going to get the win. So I think at those odds, you kind of have to lean towards Rosenstruck if you're going to bet. I think Ngannou is the better striker. I think he's the better, has the more power. So my pick's Ngannou, but if you're going to bet, you have to go with Rosenstruck.
Oh, this fight's so sick, man. Someone's going to get knocked out quickly, I think. Yeah, I'm with you, Cole. I think the first one to land probably wins the fight. And it could go either way. It really can. Rosenstruck's great, man. I've been picking the guy in all his fights, including the fight with Overeem. Now, I thought that was going to be a loss, and I marked it as a loss, and then all of a sudden, bang, rips over his chin, or as his lip with the last few seconds there in the fight. Incredible knockout. I mean, really was good. The guy's super talented. Big fan of this guy. And like you said, Cole, he's fighting with so much confidence right now. Like every interview he does, Cole, with you and other people, he just reeks of confidence. Then again, so does Nagano, right? So it's 2 guys with a supreme amount of confidence. The winner of this fight better get a title shot, man. Like they better. You know, I get it. Stipe DC, they want to have their trilogy. That's a great fight. I'm looking forward to it. But the winner of this fight might deserve it even more than DC. You know, Cole, like considering how active these guys have been. Now, Nagano, he's looked amazing. He's really improved since the Derek Lewis fight. 3 straight knockout wins in the first round for JDS, Cain Velasquez, and Curtis Blades. Curtis Blades, that's a huge win for him. He's got 2 knockout wins over Curtis Blades. The Cain Velasquez win, yeah, you know, it was an injury to Cain. Okay, fair enough. But the JDS win was super impressive. Go to Rosenstruck, and he's been impressive too. Albini, Crowder, Orlovsky, and over. So he's taking a slow step up, but since he has been rising up the ranks, he's looked better and better. Now, the Overeem fight, though, does scare me a little bit because, Cole, he was losing that whole fight. He would have lost the decision. And I'm like you, man. I was like, man, this fight's so boring. It was a boring fight. Honestly, it was. But then 4 seconds left, he gets KO'd. So he's got that fight-ending power that can happen at any time. It's like Derek Lewis, like when he fought Volkov. You could get that knockout like with 5 seconds left in the fight. It's possible. So Nagano better keep his hands up in this fight. I'll tell you that. I don't know, Cole. I mean, it really can go either way. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Rosenstruck wins this fight, you know, and it's very tempting to pick him because look at those odds. Like a heavyweight fight between 2 guys with huge KO power plus 225. Like you don't see those odds quite often. So it's tempting to pick Jairzinho Rosenstruck here, and I'm thinking about it, but I still got to go with Francis. Just the experience to me in the UFC is going to be the difference here. He's fought higher level competition, and you know, both guys fighting at high level right now, but I got to slightly lean towards Francis to get the knockout here. So that's going to be my pick, but I'm not betting on this fight, Cole. Are you kidding? Minus 265 in a heavyweight fight that could get really a knockout either way. No thanks. Couple comments here. Jan Vanderboss, hoping Rosenstruck will get Nagano loads of leg kicks. Yeah. You know what, Cole? Like, I know you just said that Nagano's probably a better striker. I don't know. I think Rosenstruck might actually be the better striker, but, you know, that could be for kickboxing. For MMA, Nagano's probably a little bit more refined, especially with the boxing. But when you add in the kicks, Cole, you got to kind of lean towards Rosenstruck overall. But with the punching power of Nagano, like, it's hard to go against him. So I know what you're saying, too. Adrian Kapoor, Cater is the future of the featherweight division and get the KO over Stevens, in my opinion. Yeah, I think so too. Bucky bets Cater wins it with superb boxing skills, but the line's too high. Cater should be a minus 150 favorite. I capped him about minus 250. I really like him in this fight, you know, personally. So I think the line's bang on personally. But I mean, if you think there's value on Stevens, fair enough. That's definitely your opinion on that one. But you like Cater as well. John Honko, I heard Rosenstruck's been working with King Mo a lot at ATT. Will he wrestle? Cole, I think this is a better question for you to answer. Are you there?
Yeah, I was talking to Rosenstruck. He is at ATT. He said he had to switch. He just wanted to get better looks, better coaching. So he brought his old coach over to ATT, so he's still with his old coach. But He told me King Mo was a guy he's working with a lot. I asked him after he said that, I'm like, are you going to wrestle? He said it's an MMA fight. Anything can happen. I don't think these guys are going to wrestle. I don't think his wrestling is that good. We saw Overeem take him down a bunch. I don't think his wrestling with one camp at King Mo can improve that much. They're going to take down Ngannou. And Ngannou still has good wrestling defense. Like, he stuffed Kane's takedowns. Junior Dos Santos attempted one, and that didn't go well. So I don't think it's going to wrestle, but I wouldn't be surprised if you see Rosenstruck shoot just to see what's there and see if he can get it.
I don't think he takes him down either. I mean, the only fight there where he was taken down was the Stipe fight, really. And Stipe is a really good, underrated wrestler. He doesn't really use it that often. But I don't think this fight goes to the ground. I mean, like you said, it's possible he could shoot just to see, but I don't think it matters. Cole. And to be honest with you, that's dangerous if he shoots because the Gano's got that uppercut, man. If he goes and shoots in, he could get caught with an uppercut. So, yeah, I don't see it being a wrestling fight-based fight at all. I think it's going to be a striking-based fight. And like I said, probably an early round knockout for one of these guys. All right, next up, co-main event, UFC men's bantamweight title on the line. Henry Cejudo against Dominick Cruz. Cejudo minus 225, Cruz plus 185. This was supposed to be Henry Cejudo versus Jose Aldo this weekend, but we're going to get Dominick Cruz again. So instead, it's a Legends fight again, but a different opponent. Cole, give me your pick for this fight.
This is a really interesting fight. Really interesting to see how Cejudo looks at bantamweight. Because obviously, Moraes, his debut against Moraes, that first round, Moraes dominated. Then something just kind of switched, and he kind of just outworked Moraes and gassed him. This fight, we know Cruz has really good cardio. He's not going to gas like Moraes, so it's going to be interesting to see how Cejudo looks. I think this fight goes the distance. I don't think either of them get a finish. I think Cejudo's wrestling is going to be the huge difference. I think he's going to be able to take down Cruz. I think Cruz is going to win some rounds. I think it's going to be like 3-2 in rounds. I think it's going to be a close fight than a lot of people expect. I think Cejudo's wrestling is just going to be the difference maker on the feet. He's been improved striking where I think he might be able to hit Cruz a little, just score some points. But I think it's going to be Cejudo just using the Olympic wrestling to his advantage and take a decision win, defend his belt.
I like Cejudo too. I love Cejudo in this fight. To me, like, he's one of the most confident picks in the card. And I see some people saying, like, it's surprising Cejudo is a favorite because he is often an underdog, but the guy's got to get some respect at some point, right? And, like, look at his winning streak, Cole. Demetrius Johnson, TJ Dillashaw, Marlon Moraes, and he's destroying these guys. Like, not Demetrius, but the other guys he just destroyed. He is fighting at a high level right now. He's got a lot of confidence in this game. I'm starting to think he's like one of the best fighters maybe we've ever seen in MMA. Like, he is such a quick learner in the sport, Cole. He's only been fighting for like 7 years, I think, now. So he's a guy that, when he first came to UFC, he was kind of just a wrestler, was learning his boxing a little bit. I know he was a Golden Gloves, boxer back in the day, but in MMA wise, he was just kind of like learning that part of the game. But the last 2 years, he's really improved it to the point where he's knocking guys out like Marlon Moraes now. Like, so he's a beast, man. Dominick Cruz is a guy that, could be argued as the greatest bantamweight ever. Like, I think there's an argument there. I don't know if he is for sure. But the biggest problem with Dominick Cruz is, listen, he was in his prime an amazing fighter. Don't get me wrong. And he was beating everyone pretty easily just based on movement and boxing pretty much. But Cole hasn't fought since 2016.
Yeah, that's the scary part there.
He's a little bit older than Cejudo. Cejudo, I think, is 33, if I'm not mistaken. So he's a little bit older than you'd think because he hasn't been fighting that long. But Cruz, fight years wise, Cole, I think he's age wise 35, but to me, he's actually a lot older than fight years because of all the wear and tear. You talk about wear and tear. This is a guy who's taken a lot of injuries in his career, a lot of damage in his career. He's always hurt. I was pretty surprised when he got this title shot. I don't think he deserves it at all. I get why he's getting it because there's no one else can fight right now. I guess just because of all the restrictions. Like, Peter Yan should have this shot, in my opinion, but he can't fight in the States right now. So Cruz gets it. I just don't see it going well for him, Cole. I don't like the matchup for Dominick Cruz at all. I don't think his movement's going to be as efficient as it once was. I think Cejudo, his wrestling's better. I think his striking's better. I think everything for Cejudo points to him getting the win here. So the question is, does he finish Dominick Cruz or does he win a decision? Cruz is very difficult to finish. He's only been finished, I think, once in his career by Faber years ago with a guillotine, if I'm mistaken. That's it. So he's a very tough guy to finish. He could get caught here, but the safer pick is probably Cejudo by decision. So that's going to be what I'm going to pick here, Cole. Cejudo to win a decision. But absolutely a kind of intriguing fight, but a fight that I don't think makes a lot of sense just based on where Cruz is in his career. But, if Cruz was coming off a win or two, I would have liked it a little bit better. because it is an interesting style matchup, but I just don't think he deserves it. So I don't give him a lot of respect in this fight. But either way, yeah, Henry Cejudo by decision. I just got to go to some questions here, Cole. Pavlo 005. I don't see Jairzinho winning. He lost to Overeem, but the stupid referee stopped the fight 1 second from the end. Overeem was okay. Stand up immediately. Well, it was 4 seconds. And the thing with MMA is, yeah, I know what you're saying. Like the clock could have ran out and Overeem could have got the decision for sure. But the problem with MMA is, and not the problem, but just the difference is like the referee is not really supposed to look at the time. It's more about the damage to the fighter. In that instance, yeah, I mean, it could have easily been a few more seconds over and would have got the win. But with the lip ripped open like that, you can understand why the referee stopped the fight. I mean, it was a very visually damaging sight, so I can see why they stopped it. And I'm pretty sure he had like emergency surgery afterwards, so on his lip. So I mean, it was a pretty nasty injury. Bucky bets Rosenstruck suffers his first loss in KO, definitely possible, and he has lost in kickboxing. We should point that out as well. Pavlo. Zeno lost to Kovalev and the judges gave him a decision. Then went to UFC. You can see the YouTube fight. I'm pretty sure that's a kickboxing fight. Bucky Betts likes over. Okay, Kenshiro Doju. Arrested 3 years layoff Cruz is the best Cruz. Plus, he's taller than Henry, and Henry is like fighting taller fighters. I guess. I don't know, man.
The reach is only half an inch, so like he's 4 inches taller, but it's only a half-inch reach, where it's not going to be that big of a difference.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, like, for sure, you know, he hasn't taken, like, damage inside the cage the last few years, but he's still a guy that's, like, never, like, healthy, and, like, really, how much has he been trained the last few years? I don't know, like, because he's always hurt, so, you know, you think that the rest would be good, but not really. I mean, it's MMA. We've seen time and time again, guys that come off long layoffs often lose. I know Cruz bucked that trend when he fought Mitsugaki a few years ago and beat him, but I don't like him in this spot, man. Pavlo, I believe Cruz wins. Cruz loses easily. He'll never come back. It's close. They might rematch. He'll probably fight again, but you know, it'd be like Legends fights against guys like Faber or something like that. I don't see him fighting for the belt if he loses this fight, which I don't think he wins. John Hunko, could we see a really boring fight of the booze between Cruz and Cejudo? Yeah, you know what, John? That's a great point. I think this fight could be pretty boring, Cole, to be honest with you, because I could see it. You know, Dominick Cruz. I don't know, like what if people think he's exciting because he really isn't. I'm sorry to say it, but he's not. I don't know how many like fight of the nights he's had. Can't think of many. He's not the most exciting guy, you know. I think the Dillashaw fight might have won fight of the night. That was a back and forth fight, which I thought he lost.
Garbrandt fight, David. That was more just because Garbrandt was styling out him and dancing.
Yeah, he was just smashing him. And that's the thing, man. Cole. I think that was the last time that Cruz fought. Obviously was, but was that Garbrandt's last win too?
Yeah.
That's crazy, right? Like, if you would have predicted that on that card, neither of these guys will ever get a win again in the UFC 3 years later, people were saying you're nuts, and that's what happens. So
the odds would have been like 20,000 to 1.
I know, right? Like, will Cruz or Cejudo not win, or Cruz and Garbrandt not win a fight in the next 3 years? I don't think anyone would pick that. All right, Bucky bets. I can see the cringe pulling decision went. Yep, so can we. Pavlo, I understand, but he stopped immediately. He stand back up immediately. And he's saying, you're talking about the fight in Rise and Kovalev. Yeah. That fight absolutely could have gone either way. I have seen that fight, Pavlo. I know you're talking about now. Sorry, had to think about that. Yeah, that's the only fight that Jairzinho hasn't knocked out his opponent in MMA. It was a super close fight in Rise, and you're right, it could have went either way. And if he lost the fight, then who knows if he ends up in the UFC. But either way, he's here now, and we'll see what happens in this big spot here. All right, let's get to the main event. Best fight in the card for sure. I mean, this is the front runner fight of the night. But, wow, what a fight, Cole. I mean, listen, we were supposed to watch Tony and Habib, and all of us want to watch that fight. I want to see that fight badly, Cole. But this is a pretty damn amazing replacement fight, right? Like, this is pretty sick. These are two of my all-time favorites, Tony Ferguson and Justin Gaethje, two of the most exciting guys in the sport. This is the perfect fight for, like, a casual fan to watch this weekend. Someone who doesn't really watch UFC or MMA and is like, all right, I want to check it out because there's nothing else to watch. The perfect fight. That's why I think it should be on regular ESPN and not on pay-per-view, but that's just me. Either way, Cole, what a fight. And right now we got Tony Ferguson minus 180, Gaethje plus 158. Who's going to be the UFC interim lightweight champion at the end of Saturday night?
I got to go with Tony Ferguson. I think he's just a better all-around fighter. I think Gaethje has the ability to knock him out early, but I just think Ferguson, he could take a punch. I know he's been dropped before, but he's a tough guy to finish. I think his weird footwork, I think it's going to frustrate Gaethje. I think the leg kicks by Gaethje's going to be a factor in this one. I think both of them are going to be beat up pretty badly in this one. I think both of them are going to have a lot of damage. I don't think it's going to be an early knockout. I think Ferguson's cardio is going to be a huge damage. I think he's just going to be able to outwork Gaethje for the first 3 rounds, really push the pace on Gaethje. I think that's going to frustrate Gaethje too. Is Gaethje's normally the one that comes forward. I don't think Ferguson's going to let that happen. I think he's going to be the one pushing the pace. And then I think in the 4th round, once Gaethje starts to fade, I think Ferguson's going to put it on him and get a TKO win in the 4th.
Love both these guys, but I'm with you, man. Tony Ferguson wins this fight. He's just, to me, a more well-rounded, dangerous guy and better cardio, better chin, better ground game, better submissions. Gaethje's great. His striking is dangerous. He can knock anyone out, but he's reckless a lot of the time. And he does have wrestling. He doesn't use it, though. That's the problem with him. So, I mean, honestly, his best path to victory in this fight might be to wrestle Tony Ferguson, because Tony can be playing on his back. But even if he does that, Tony's so dangerous with his submissions, man. So it's a very risky thing. Stand and trade with Tony Ferguson, you can get caught. You could knock out Ferguson. It's possible, but it'd be difficult. I mean, Ferguson has been dropped before a few times, like the Lando Venata fight where he got dropped a couple times. But overall, I mean, his chin's pretty damn good, man. I just really like Tony Ferguson in this spot, Cole. Honestly, I think minus 180 is actually a pretty reasonable price, because I just see a lot of advantages for him in this fight. And he's just so experienced, and he's ready for this, man. He really deserves to be a title like holder in the UFC. You know, it's a shame that Khabib and him can't fight right now, but hopefully that fight happens at some point later this year. Give me Tony Ferguson by TKO, Cole. I think he gets it done probably 3rd or 4th round. You know, just kind of eats up the damage Gaethje does and finishes him like the Donald Cerrone fight. I mean, Doctor stopped that fight. That's kind of how I see this going. Tony Ferguson, when he fights you, he cuts you. He makes you bleed. He beats you up. There's like you see that picture floating around, Cole?
Yeah.
You see that, right?
His last like 12 opponents.
Dude, look at their faces, man. Like, this guy just beats up people like really badly and violently. And Gaethje does too, don't get me wrong, but I don't trust Gaethje's chin, Cole. I really don't. You know, I love the guy. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm pretty sure I picked him in every UFC fight he's been in. This is the first time I actually picked against him in his career. But I like Tony Ferguson a lot in this fight. So give me Tony Ferguson. So crazy enough, Cole, we actually had the same picks for this card. And again, anyone listening, me and Cole did not talk about our picks before, and we never do. I don't want to know what Cole's picking because I don't want that to influence me. But we both have the same picks, which is crazy. All right, a couple of questions here, comments. And let's start with this one. Pablo 05. I don't think Cruz fights favor. They already had trilogy. Yes, they did. I could see him fighting Cody again. Yeah, that fight could definitely happen. That's a fight that I think makes a lot of sense. Adrian Kapoor. Cruz wins or loses. Should he hang them up if you don't want the smoke from Aljo or Faber? Yeah, if he loses this fight, he could definitely retire. I mean, listen, Dominick Cruz, like, he's already got that career set as like a UFC commentator. UFC loves the guy. They absolutely love him. To me, personally, I don't really know Dominick personally. Like, I don't have anything bad to say about him as a person, but I don't like his commentary. I don't think he's very good at it. You know, I think he's one of the weakest commentators they have. I'd much rather hear Paul Felder, Bisping, or DC talk.
He's really biased too when his
super biased fighting. I think it was it Miles Jury that was fighting? I think was it Andre Fili? Yeah, Andre Fili, Miles Jury, and he was like, Miles Jury's landing, and everyone's like, "What are you talking about?" Like, so yeah, he's definitely very biased. Hopefully, he gets better over the years, but I mean, I'm not a fan of his commentary. There's been so many fights where he's like been scoring a fight, and I'm like, "Whoa!" Like, what did he see that? You know? So, and I know I'm not the only person who feels that way. Again, nothing against him personally or as a fighter, but as a commentator, not a big fan. Pavlov says Don beats those guys easily, so I'm guessing he means Aljo and Peter Yan. I don't agree with that at all. I think Peter Yan smokes him, and I think Aljo probably beats him too. John Co. How much of a factor will cutting weight twice in the span of a few weeks have on the chin of Tony Ferguson, assuming? Definitely interesting, man. It's a great question, John, because, you know, what Tony did was kind of crazy and kind of reckless in many ways. But here's the thing. Here's the argument I would make, and I talked about this already a few weeks ago. That's part of the ritual. That's part of the routine. So I can see why he did it. Like, it was just his routine. He was already cutting the weight. He's like, you know what? I'm just going to get it done with and finish the weight cut. Was it crazy? Sure. I mean, Justin didn't cut. He even said, I'm not cutting. He said, you can do what you want, man. So it's pretty nuts. It could have a factor, John. We don't know. I mean, how often does this happen where guys cutting weight and then he fights 2 weeks later and cuts weight again? We have no idea. But I will say this, and it's a great point you brought about weight cutting. You will see at least one fighter miss weight for this card. Well, I guarantee you someone will miss weight. And probably 2 fighters, if not more, you know, because they just don't have the regular training right now. So they're not losing the weight at the same rate as they probably once were. The sauna situation could be a little volatile this weekend. Just, you know, going on treadmills and stuff like that, they could sweat that last few pounds out. Also, there's like specific weigh-in windows for each guy. So I'm not sure how that's going to factor in either. I think you're with you on this, Cole. You do see someone missing weight as well, huh?
Yeah.
I don't know who it's going to be. I really don't. I have no idea, but sadly enough, I do see someone missing weight. Pavlov says Tony fights in tough, used to cut weight in short time. John says that was 10 years ago. Pavlov says he steps on the short notice. Yeah, I mean, both you guys are making great points. Honestly, we have no idea, guys, because how often does this happen in UFC where a guy cuts weight twice in 2 weeks? It's pretty freaking crazy. Or even 2 weeks, I guess 3 weeks it should be. But we'll see what happens. I mean, it could have an effect, and he could be drained because we know that guys that cut a lot of weight, their chins are compromised, but we have no idea. I'm with Bucky Betts, though. He says there's value on Tony Ferguson. He hasn't capped at 300. Yeah, I think I had him about minus 250 myself because I
had
think
him like 225, 230 around there.
Your favorite in this fight. So minus 180, I do see value in him. Again, love Gaethje, man. He's great, but I like Tony Ferguson a lot. Tony is such a good fighter. I hope people realize how amazing this guy is. He's incredible, and it's really a shame he hasn't fought for the actual belt yet. Call. Pavlov says, or actually, Adrian Kapoor, Cruz said Conor was allowing Khabib to tag him on the ground to tire Khabib out. LOL, Feller and DC are much better, 100%. I like Bisping better too. I think he's really good. And there's a couple other guys that are, kind of coming up here. Like Anthony Smith, I think he's really good as well. He doesn't do like fight commentary, but he's really good at analysts and stuff. So I like him a lot. Guys, feel free to send some more questions in here just in the last few minutes here. Cole, I want to hear about your story you did for CBC, man, because you did that UFC 249 story. Talk to the listeners about it.
Yeah, it's about CBC Sports. I talked to Lyman Good, who was the first UFC fighter to get the virus, Michelle Watterson, Sam Alvey, Marlon Vera, of why UFC fighters are still so eager to fight and want to fight during this pandemic. CBC is not a place that normally covers MMA. I hear it a lot with the coworkers there is, why is this event happening? So I thought, let's get them to realize that why the fighters need this. And a lot of the fighters brought up a good point. Like Marlon Vera was basically just told them to F off. People that don't like it, he goes like, none of my bills, my mortgage, my electricity, all that's not getting deferred. This is the only way I make money. Like I need to put food on my table. I have 2 kids. I have to look after them. That was a common perception, is I need to look after my family. Like if I can't fight for a couple months, like I won't be able to survive. It's definitely an interesting read. It's a lot of good points. Even Lyman Good said like he's already wanting to get back in there because he wants to be the person to prove like even if you get the virus, you can go back to living your normal life. Like shortly after, he wants to be that kind of guy. So there's definitely a lot of interesting quotes in there that it's on my Twitter. I tweeted a couple times, so it's easy to find.
Yeah, I know you have, and it's a great article, man. Seriously, it's a great byline for you, and I thought you did a really good job with those interviews. Let's see here. Pavlov, I'm telling you, Cruz will beat those other guys. I only see Cejudo would be a tough fight for him. Those other guys never fought a guy like Dom before. Dom was great, man. You got to keep in mind, though, Pavlov. He hasn't fought since 2016. The same night Ronda got KO'd by the last time we saw her. Last time Cruz fought. So lots happened since then. Think about how much you've changed personally in the last 3 years, man. Think about how much Dominick's changed. Andrew Kapoor, Smith and Chiesa are also analysts on the rise. Absolutely. Yeah, Chiesa's definitely good. I think Anthony Smith's he's really smart, man. I think. Bucky Best, love the podcast, guys. Man, appreciate that. Tune in every week, but this is the first time interacting in the chat. Dude, anytime you want, throw some questions in. We love it. And Pavlov, once again, arguing for Dominick Cruz. We get it, man. You love Dude, you should put some money on him. I mean, he's an underdog, right? Pavlov definitely thinks he's got a good chance, but I guess he doesn't like him necessarily against Cejudo, but he thinks he would beat guys like Aljo and Yan. I would pick all those guys over Cruz, though, Cole. I would pick, Corey Sanhagen. I'd pick him over Dominick Cruz, for instance. I'd probably pick a guy like Rafael Sunset over him, too, at this point. So 3-year layoff's a long time, man, and he's a guy that's always hurt, too. So he's definitely an injury risk. We should get to some just regular news, Cole, if that's okay with you, before we get out of here. Is that cool? All right, let's just do it in minutes. I know Cole's got a lot to do, so do I. I'm just going to go to bjpen.com, guys. That's our home, me and Cole's home for the news. Amanda Nunes versus Felicia Spencer has been rescheduled. I don't know if you've talked to Felicia yet. I'm assuming you're going to send her a text right after this podcast is done, or you probably that's your girl. June 6th. So that pay-per-view is supposed to happen in Perth, Australia. It's been canceled, Cole. Postponed, I guess, actually is the term UFC used. No idea when that's going to happen. But I'm assuming this card's going to take place in Jacksonville, too. I mean, it seems like they're going to be there for a few months. I like Nunez still. Nothing changed there. Now, I will say that, what's the difference between fighting on May 9th and June 6th? Like, doesn't seem like a lot of a difference. But for Amanda, I guess it kind of helps her, because I know that she was kind of like one of the fighters that did speak up against, fighting during this pandemic. So I guess that's alleviating some of her fears. But, yeah, I do like her there. Just looking at some of the other fights that were announced, a lot of fights were announced. For instance, Matt Brown's fighting Miguel Biza. That's a rebooking. That's going to take place on the May 16 card. So there's actually at least three cards coming up in Jacksonville, and then this pay-per-view, which we have no idea where it's going to take place, but I'll just forget about that one for now. Now, for this May, for right now, we got UFC 249 this weekend. Next Wednesday, UFC Fight Night Jacksonville. That's going to be main evented by Glover Teixeira and Anthony Smith. Then next Saturday is another UFC Jacksonville card. That's going to be Walt Harris and Alistair Overeem. And then the week after, next Saturday after that, is another Fight Night card. They're announcing fights for that now. We don't know what the main event's going to be, but from what we're hearing, Cole, it's probably going to be Tyron Woodley against Gilbert Burns. Any truth to that? I mean, I know you're pretty close to Gilbert.
Yeah, I was talking to Gilbert last night. He said you'll find out today if Woodley. His term was if Woodley turns me down again. It wasn't even if Woodley accepts. So Burns is looking at the negative. He said Woodley's turned down a couple times. He thinks Woodley just has Twitter fingers. He doesn't know if he's going to accept. He says he already signed the contract, so it's all in Woodley's court.
Yeah, it's happening. Yeah, I think it's going to happen. I think
so too.
I think so because he wants to fight. And also, I think T Wood thinks he can beat Gilbert Burns, and you know what? Like that's a fight he probably can win. Interesting fight. I mean, Gilbert's he's looked amazing, Cole. Anyway, so yeah, let's just go through some other news here. Cejudo's got a cut in his head. I don't know if you saw that video. I don't know what to say about that. I mean, it probably doesn't come into play, but who knows, right? Like, any thoughts on that?
And who knows even when they film that? Because they could have filmed that like for the April 18th one, and it could have been like when he was training in like March for this. So it's kind of interesting. They didn't really show any context when that was, but I don't know if it's going to be a factor.
UFC Kazakhstan was canceled. Another card's been canceled due to coronavirus pandemic. Cole. Peter Yan versus Marlon Moraes. That was supposed to be the main event. I'm assuming those guys will probably fight on the Fight Island whenever that happens, if that happens, because I don't think Yan can get in the States right now. Moraes, I believe, lives in Florida, if I'm not mistaken, right? So he'll be able to fight on one of these Jacksonville cards. They might break that matchup up. If they do, it happen. It is what it is. I wouldn't mind seeing Moraes versus like Corey Sandhagen. I think that'd be a great replacement fight. I know Corey's probably eager to get back in the cage, so that could happen. Just going through some other news here, Cole. Just seeing what else we missed over the last few days. I wasn't able to do a podcast yesterday because I saved it for today, obviously. I don't know. I don't think there's not a lot else that I want to talk about here. Yeah, that's going to be it for now. I think. Yeah. Okay, so let's just get to plugging our stuff here, Cole. I want to hear about your stuff, man. You've been doing a lot lately, Cole, so please tell everyone about what you've been up to.
Yeah, Twitter at ColeSean91. I have a lot of news this week. Talked to Rosenstruck, that's up. Fighter picks for Ferguson Gaethje, that's up. I'll have fighter picks for Cruz Cejudo, Incognito Rosenstruck. And then I talked to Michelle Watterson, which should be up today. Sam Alvey, and who's the other one? Oh, and Alexei Olenek too. So I talked to him, which will be up this week. And everything else is always on my Twitter.
Yeah, you've been doing a lot of interviews. Good stuff, Cole. We got a few more questions. I'll take them before I plug my stuff. We'll get out of here. I wanted to do an hour, so we're just about the mark right now. Adrian Kapoor, should Lyman Good be allowed to fight again soon after the infection? I don't know. I mean, he says he's negative now, so we'll see. But I'd be worried too. If I wouldn't want to fight Lyman Good. You know, if you're a UFC fighter, why would you want to fight a guy that just had coronavirus? It seems really dangerous. Pavlov, Dominick Cruz used to a 3-year layoff that he'd come back and beat the other dude's ass. And he's talking about Mitsugaki, but Mitsugaki and Cejudo, I mean, come on, there's a big difference there. He says Kazakhstan's been postponed. They're playing for December. I hope so. I mean, those fans definitely want to see it. Adrian Kapoor, Ian Heinisch, and Peter is stuck in Thailand right now. Yeah, I have heard about that. That sucks. So, I mean, it is what it is. It's just the fact of life right now, coronavirus pandemic. All right, guys, I think that's going to be it for today's show. I'm going to plug my stuff. As always, follow me on Twitter at MMAdamMartin right there at the bottom of the screen. And follow Cole too, because Cole's always tweeting stuff out. Also, of course, I'm at MMAOddsBreaker.com. You know, right now, of course, there's not a ton of stuff going on, but for me personally there, but I know they've brought a few other writers on, which is great. So that's awesome. But this week I will have breakdowns for the main event, co-main event. You already heard my picks here, but in written form, I'll get those out in the next day or two. Also on MMAOddsBreaker.com. We got the podcast. So the schedule for the podcast, I'm going to do another one Friday, probably like after weigh-ins or during weigh-ins, something like that. I'll see if Cole's around or whatever, and you might be busy, but I'll definitely be here. Next week, I'm going to do 3 podcasts, which is great. So I'll do Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. That's the plan right now, but I'll let you guys know if that changes. We do have 2 cards to break down, so we'll see what happens there. Also, check me out at bjpen.com. and MMA Rings on Net, where I got a couple of UFC 249 articles coming out as well. Fight week, guys. Finally back. I'm so excited and appreciate everyone tuning into the podcast today. And Cole, thanks for joining me as always, man. That's going to be it for today's show, guys. Thanks again for tuning in. Stay safe, and I'll see you guys Friday. Bye.